I'm not as bummed as you would think about the 49ers losing. Sometimes, and this is not my big takeaway of week 2 of the NFL, but sometimes, I don't know what it is, location, team, coaching, as you always say in boxings, you always say in boxing in the fight game, matchups, sometimes...
Are you
Fool me once.
Styles make fights. It is. It's all about the matchups. That's what intrigues me in fighting, in boxing, and in football. It's the matchups that intrigue me. And that's my answer to why I don't have a team. I don't have a team. I like the matchups. I like watching which games interest me the most.
I mean, the real answer as to why you don't have a team is when you were like 8, no one really influenced a team on you. That's the real reason.
It's a little bit of both. That's not true. I mean, I had Giants fans in my family. I was just more of a Cowboys front-running little kid and didn't have a chance to watch all those Cowboys games growing up.
But Iowa Sam, the takeaway from me, I don't think it's that Sam Darnold had the advantage because he played under Shanahan last year. I just think the 49ers have a hard time against the Vikings. That's 2 years in a row now. And if I remember correctly, I think multiple times in a row now, the 49ers just can't beat the Minnesota Vikings. Hey, they're 1-1 like most of the league. Parity is the big story. There's
just like the Chiefs can't beat the Bengals. And guess what? They didn't beat the Bengals. They did not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they did because that was my lock. But come on. The Bengals got robbed. But Iowa Sam's on the 1s and 2s. The very happy Danny G, the Raiders fan, on the phones. 877-99 on Fox. Dan Byers here with your updates. We got Elijah and Spot on the videos at Covino and Rich. And, of course, we depend on you on Mondays. We get you involved. We talk some NFL. Before we get to the phones, Rich, and the things that made you go, what were some of your biggest takeaways? The fact that you just don't know anything. Not you, meaning everybody. Nobody knows anything yet.
No one knows anything. I have my big observation from the weekend, but it just all falls under the same category as no one knows a damn thing.
No one knows Queens of the Stone Age style.
Nobody knows. Is that also a Tony Rich project song?
I don't know that corny song. I'm
Nobody
talking about
knows
Queens
it
of the
but
Stone
me.
Age.
That's a better song.
No, it's not. It is not a better
You
song.
think more people know Queens of the Stone Age?
Yeah, it's a way cooler song than the miserable song you just sang. No one knows Queens of the Stone Age style. No one knows anything.
Well,
you're singing what? Nights are long and the days are so sad.
That's a way better song.
Yeah, that's how you feel after your 49ers blew it.
That freaking voodoo music.
And now I'm missing you, and nobody knows it but me.
Seems like you know the song pretty well.
I do
that
know
is a
that.
good song.
I'm sure I cried to it at least once in my life.
Nicely done.
You like that?
Yeah, it's on.
So, I want to talk Cowboys. That's where I want to go here.
Don't egg them on.
It's twofold, as Stephen A. calls them, Alice, because they're missing that D. Whoa.
Alice Cowboys.
Because they got what's with the defense? Worst home loss in the Dak Prescott era. That's almost a decade. Jerry Jones waiting in the tunnel, like saying how mad he is. That's not what Mike McCarthy wants to hear when he's in his final year.
Tip your cowboy hat to the Saints and maybe say they're better than anyone thought. Right now, if you were going to pick an MVP, it'd be Derek Carr. Did you hear that really crazy stat? I could be wrong. Check Dwayne's stats on this one. Stat boy, Tony Reale. But he's scored on every drive, every possession he's had, he's scored, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. That's craziness. That's the kind of year he's having.
Was it 6 straight tutties at one point?
Yeah.
So
him and Baker Mayfield lighting it up.
I heard the great Dan Byer, before we hopped on, he was talking to Doug Gottlieb. What was that stat, DB? Not to put you on the spot, about 0-2 teams and their percentage to make the playoffs?
Yeah, since the NFL expanded to a 17-game regular season schedule, 21 of the 21 teams that have started 0-2, only 2 of them have made the postseason.
Well, then let me kick it off. I know you want to talk Cowboys and focus on Cowboys because they're the big laugh today, right? Especially if you're a Stephen A. kind of guy. If you're going to talk about 0-2 teams, then what made me say, is the Ravens going down, the Raiders, Danny G's Raiders beating the Ravens, them being 0-2, Lamar Jackson not playing that great. He was my pick for MVP here at the office.
Well, he's still playing well. Yesterday,
no, it's not on him, but still, you expect more. You got the Bengals, the Rams, the New York Football Giants, the Ravens, the Colts, the Titans, the Broncos, the Jaguars, the Panthers, all 0-2. All 0-2 teams already. with that low percentage of making the playoffs.
Well,
But the Ravens being part of that is definitely something that makes me say,
I think 0-3, 0-4 is a way different story. 0-2, you win next week, you're 1-2, and then you're right in the mix. You're maybe a game behind who's your division leader. I think the crazy part is and I'll get into the Cowboys. For as hard as we're being on some of these 0-2 teams, it just shows you how winners know how to finish, because you could argue the Kansas City Chiefs are 2 plays away from being 0-2. Meanwhile, they're 2-0. If the Baltimore Ravens, if Likely is wearing white cleats and they go for 2, the Ravens win week 1. If there's no call on that pass interference, if the guy arrives,
there shouldn't have been a call.
It should have been. He did hit him. He hit him before the ball got there.
Weak
I mean,
call.
you got to call it. I hate it, but you got to call it.
It's funny. It's
But what
on
I'm
a
saying
personal
is,
note,
those 2 plays, if different, I mean, I know that's football, but they're 2 plays away from being 0-2. Meanwhile, they're 2-0.
Rich hit me up after the Chiefs won the game to tell me that he just hates the Chiefs now. The Chiefs went from, they're really good, but I don't hate them because Mahomes is so likable, to, and I'm feeling his vibe on this, borderline sort of hateable now. It's like, especially after the past 2 weeks, the whole Taylor Swift storyline, a little much.
Rich said they all have punchable faces now.
They're sort of entering the world of, I'm not sure if I like these guys anymore.
I felt that there was a transition. Yeah, transition.
I'm feeling
felt
what you were spitting.
I felt that way for a minute with Steph and Draymond and Clay when they were all together. In the beginning, it was like, yo, Splash Brothers bringing some vibes to Golden State, the Bay Area. They haven't had this love.
Right.
Then after like 1 or 2, you're like, okay, with Steph, when you got the mouth guard hanging out of your mouth and you're turning around before the 3 goes through, like.
You turned on him.
Yeah, I turned on. And I feel that way about Mahomes.
No, I think you're onto something. I think you're not alone. I think he was a guy that everybody loves greatness, right? Not everybody loved the Chicago Bulls growing up, but you could appreciate and respect Michael Jordan and love what he did. That's how you felt about Mahomes. Now they're getting sort of annoying, that team, a little bit.
Well, because you felt what was happening.
A little bit.
You felt this unfurling, great word. When you were watching Bengals Chiefs yesterday, I would have bet my bottom dollar. Like I'm singing the song from Annie. I'll bet my bottom dollar
Little Orphan Dickie.
that the Chiefs were going to – when Cincinnati had the ball and they couldn't convert, I was like, oh, they could drain some clock. When the Chiefs got the ball back, every ounce of your being was like, game-winning drive. Hello? It's like when the 49ers couldn't punch the ball in the end zone in overtime at the Super Bowl. You're like, Chiefs just won the Super Bowl. Like, you get that feeling, and it's annoying. I know there's no better word. I know that's a lame word, annoying. But the Chiefs are becoming annoying more than ever.
I think you're on the pulse of what a lot of people are starting to feel, for sure.
And what makes it even more annoying is
I don't think the pop culture significance of the Chiefs helped that feeling, that sentiment.
like, to be honest, like, you think Bengals fans want to see Taylor Swift jumping in the booth? Like, last year I was all cool with it. Now it's annoying. It's almost like too much of a good thing, everybody.
Yeah, something's happened. Something's changed. The only reason I bring that up is because Rich said it, and I sat there and I'm like, I kind of agree with him. Here. And when we agree is fact, and I imagine that other people are starting to feel the same way.
I feel like you're coming around, like, not very late, but kind of late.
A lot of people were there already.
Well, in the preseason, I felt it. And remember, I said so, and Big Mike came into the main studio and he yelled at me, and he's like, dude, what do you have a problem with T Swizzle? I can't do Mike like Buyer Kid.
Well, you don't want to be.
What's your problem with T Swizzle? I said, I don't have a problem with her or it, but I think I'm just kind of done. Like, it felt like the chapter closed when that season ended. That's all.
Yeah, maybe I'm late to it. What's up, Dan Buyer?
I think that there is a natural disassociation with the Chiefs just because they win a lot. Like that. Let's put that on the board. I felt that we're like, gosh, I'm sick of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again. When 5-6 years ago, I'm like, please, somebody but the Patriots. That's normal.
Right.
But what I think is happening is the penalty yesterday, the penalty in the Super Bowl against the Eagles that allowed them to run out the clock, the penalty against the Bengals in the AFC Championship prior to that, all of those goes Kansas City's way and allows them to win the football game. And so you're just waiting of like, all right, when are they not going to get a call? And when everything in the NFL seems subjective, or what's a penalty and what's not a penalty, all of these crucial situations not only side with the Chiefs, they basically put them in a winning situation to run out the clock or kick the field goal.
You're so right. And I'm not saying it is. I'm not one of these guys, but it does feel like, come on, this is like scripted at this point.
Again.
It feels that way, but I know it's not. I'm not saying it is.
And I agree, because I'm
just
not one of those
feels that
people.
way.
Because as a Niners fan, I have bonehead Niners friends that are like, look at this collage and montage of all the times Nick Bosa got held.
And when you feel the script coming, you're like, I don't like this.
All right, 5 minutes left. Cincinnati has the ball. All right, they'll stall on this drive. They'll give Mahomes 2 minutes.
I think that's what it is. That's what it is, Rich. Because Mahomes is still a likable dude. You still like him. Still root for him to do well, root for greatness, but it's the feeling of, I could see what's happening.
Yes, and that they got another break. If the roles were reversed and that was Cincinnati, would they have gotten the call in that situation? I don't think a lot of fans feel the Bengals would have benefited from that call.
And then, like I said, as just your human instincts take over, and you're like, and Kelsey signed a $100 million podcast deal, and Mahomes is doing this, and, the president's like, I hate Taylor Swift, and, like, they're just so in your day-to-day that's like, enough.
They've become the villain.
And I was the number one.
And relate to the party, apparently.
I was the number one person last year saying, like, stop being a hater. It's nice, Travis and Taylor. And I was, like, okay with it. We've hit overexposure, oversaturation.
We had to start a swear jar for you anytime you said Kelsey or Swift.
Let me give you this. We're going to get over and go over things that made you go, But biggest surprise to you, Rich, because I know Rich had action on this. Rich is putting his money there.
Do you remember
we were just in Vegas, so Rich had a lot of action. What surprised you most, though? Raiders over the Ravens, your Niners losing to the Vikings, or the Saints beating the Cowboys?
Vikings. Cowboys losing to the Saints, because I was on board with Dan Beyer, and I'll shout out Colin, give him some love too. There's a lot of people on this network that thought the Saints were trash. Their personnel outside of Alvin Kamara and a couple players, like, they were a little light on personnel, and they were just going to stink. I felt that way, and man, did the Saints make me feel like I don't know a thing.
I mean, I was surprised that the Buccaneers beat the Lions too. I mean, I know they're decent, but I thought the Lions were going to win.
I thought the Lions would win.
Yeah,
but I thought that Baker showed that he's good, and the Bucs are actually decent. But my favorite game of the week was, you tell me, Dallas at home against the Saints, back to reality, New Orleans, and we were wrong.
When we did our pick segment, which I know will come up later, I remember you saying at that time, because you were the last one to pick, easy. I can't believe you guys left this for me.
Yeah.
Cowboys over Saints.
Yeah.
It was something like,
Yeah. You called us, and I quote, a bunch of dummies.
Yeah, I called you guys
you dummies. How did you miss this one? I remember that. Absolutely. So some big surprises. Again, nobody knows anything. No one knows. Queens of the Stone Age style.
All right, well,
We've been saying for years, you don't know anything till about week 6 or 7 anyway. But
look into your crystal ball, like your Madame Ruby from Pee Wee's Big Adventure. I see a bicycle.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Alamo. Look into your crystal ball.
Okay.
And of all these teams that are 2-0, 0-2, 1-1, what is the biggest illusion so far where you're like, all right, they may be 0-2, but the Ravens are still a playoff team, or the Steelers are 2-0, but come on.
You'd have to throw the Ravens in that conversation. I imagine they're better than an 0-2 start.
Because right now, the NFC...
And again, they could have won that first game.
Right now, the NFC and the AFC are both throwing me for a loop, but if you were to say what division, does anyone really think that the Ravens and Bengals would be 0-2 and the Steelers would be 2-0, considering they weren't even sure who was going to be quarterback? They said it was Russ, and then he was hurt, so Fields got in there. And I'll tell you this. I did my new setup yesterday. I bought a TV yesterday morning.
Rich is so proud of this, by the way, guys.
So that
should we give him a hip, hip, hooray?
Shut up.
Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!
Hey, guys.
Rich got another TV in his living room.
Yay.
Are you pulling it in a radio flyer wagon?
He's got it set up on 2 little nightstands.
I'm thinking about getting a second one because 50-inch TVs at Walmart, $189. So I had the Sunday ticket, 4 split screen.
Should we give him a little? He's a jolly good fellow.
Oh, let's do it.
And so say all of us. And so say all of us. And so say all of us. 'Cause he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us. Rich Davis. Nobody can deny. Rich Davis. He's told everybody that we've seen that he got a new TV to watch more football
because
over the weekend.
My setup's sweet now.
You
guys are all welcome any Sunday.
I'm a little jealous.
My wife and I installed an open house policy. Every Sunday, any friend, any coworker, we are going to be there. There'll be food. There'll be
football. Here's what's funny about it is you're talking to millions of crazy sports fans.
Yeah. I'm about to tweet out his address right now.
No.
I'm going to go eat all his food. And
you know how many people have such a stellar setup and you're bragging about you just got a second TV?
I rolled in a TV.
Oh, you know what?
People, stick it up your...
You should see some of the magnificent setups people
50
have.
inches.
Installed by professionals, surround sound. They got the whole deal, and you're bragging about your Costco TV that you got for $90.
The Walmart, by the way. I will say, on one of the TVs yesterday...
One of them.
You know, could I have...
I'm going to get...
Not 4, not 5, not 6.
I think I'm going to get a third. I'm going to have 250 inches on the side of the big one in the middle and play that game.
Can you put small TVs over all your toilets so when I go to the bathroom I can still watch, like in sports bars?
My point is, on the 4 o'clock games yesterday, the 1 o'clocks out here on the West Coast, they got to do something about the balance. I get it, time zones, but you're looking at like 11 games early and then like 3 late games. The distribution, I get it.
Yes.
But it stinks. We talked about it the other day, right, Dan? Like they had to promise 3 games in the afternoon.
Yes, and for me doing my Red Zone show with Kerry Rhodes here, you have 10 games in that open window that you couldn't even fit in the Octo box.
Yeah.
Because they left out Ravens, Raiders, and Buccaneers, Lions. So you couldn't see those games if you were watching the Octo box. And then the 3 games yesterday, Rams Cardinals was a blowout. Chiefs Bengals obviously had some drama, but while the Broncos and Steelers were close, it really wasn't a good game by any means.
My point was, while the Steelers are 2-0, and you could argue they played Atlanta and then the Broncos yesterday, that team, the only cheesy word I could think of is pizzazz. They lack...
How about a little razzmatazz?
Razzmatazz. They lack any excitement. Dude, I'll watch any football game on planet Earth. That was tricky to watch. They are the most boring team in the NFL.
They're dog water, bro.
A team with such glorious history. More Super Bowls than anyone other than the Patriots, right? And the Niners. And I think the Cowboys, Niners, and Steelers are all tied up. But let me tell you, boring. That team is the pits.
Well, now we go to your phone calls. Those are our thoughts about the games yesterday. We'll talk about tonight's game, of course. But now we turn it over to you, and we'll get to all your phone calls next at 877-99 on Fox and at Covino and Rich.
And this week's things that make you go, let's try to stick to a theme when you call up.
Okay.
No one knows a damn thing. What confused you the most in week 2 of the NFL? Like I said, the Cowboys getting smashed by New Orleans. Was it Danny G's Raiders? And Danny, you called it. You said that Raiders defense, stop sleeping on them, man. Antonio Pierce. You were so dead on right. So applaud Danny G for that call.
That was wild.
You said the NFL Network, everyone on the panel laughed and they go, can we just skip this game?
Yeah, I was watching before the early window NFL Network, and they pick each game. And when they got to the Ravens, they said, we don't even got to do this segment. And they were cracking all these jokes about the Raiders. And, you know, hey, they were the biggest favorite on Sunday. But like we talked about last week, the Raiders do have a good enough defense to where if that offense even clicked to where they got any sort of points on the board, they had a chance in that game.
When you start peeling back the onion of that game, a Raiders win was a little bit more likely than the point spread would say. And even hearing some bettors and people talk about that game, we thought maybe the Ravens would be motivated because of how they lost in Kansas City. Like that was built into the number. That was already, so you don't even have to consider something like that. But to Danny's point, Minshew mania, I think, is a thing. We've seen the Ravens play down to the level of their competition. They actually, Raiders were awful with their first 3 possessions, but guess what? The Raiders hung around, couldn't put them away, and look what happened.
Did you see that clip, too, of Crosby hyping up Minshew? I thought that was awesome, man.
That was my favorite moment of the game.
That was super cool.
After Minshew threw that second quarter interception, he was running off the sideline, dejected, and Max Crosby totally took the next step on this team as the leader.
That was
He put his finger in Minshew's chest and said, "You're our guy. Keep your head up. We're going to get the ball back for you. Don't let your mind spin out of this game. You stay focused." And then I read in the fourth quarter, Davante Adams got the team together on the sideline and told them, "Let's start catching this ball down the field. We need points on the board." So both those guys showed some great leadership.
Some great moments, and I hate to sound corny about it, but if you watch Minshew's reaction to that little speech that Crosby gave him, like he reacted and responded to that. It was really nice to see.
And there was a point in the fourth quarter, Danny, where I was thinking that you were losing your mind because there was a point where Davante Adams dropped a wide open slant pattern.
Yeah, he was looking at all that
green.
All that real estate he had in front of him.
All right, well, we got a break, but let's go to Dan Byer for a quick update. What's up, Dan?
Breaking news from Fox Sports.
Rams are 0-2. Hits keep on coming. Head coach Sean McVay says wide receiver Cooper Kupp expected to miss multiple weeks and could be a candidate for injured reserve after suffering an ankle injury in yesterday's game against the Cardinals. Left the game, did not return, so now the Rams would be down Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua for the foreseeable future with injuries.
Sucks for them because those guys trained in the offseason together and were so ready. 49ers fans, a little smiling today because they play the Rams next week out here in Los Angeles, so maybe a good rebound game for the 49ers without Kupp or Nacua.
Hate to name drop, but we had Nacua on the show, and he talked about the regiment and how strict it was and how hard they were working, so really sad to hear.